time frame from the earthquake to now? How much time has expired that has allowed all of this to continue to fall in?
June
June of
June.
22?
22,
Yeah.
yes. June of
So-
22 is when,
As this happened and we were made aware of it, what measures did we do at that time to stop it? You just talked about
Right.
what you've done recently, but I'm just wondering, was there anything that could have been done at that time from the state and from, I guess, Chatham County?
right, so if you look at the bottom of the screen here in this image, you see those two steel beams that are coming towards the wall. Those were initially installed to keep the wall from collapsing any further. That they're pushing up against it to hold it in place. That was the first thing, was to keep the wall held in place.
But at the same time, you got ships coming in,
Yes, ma'am.
moving the soil, and
Yes, ma'am.
so there are a lot of moving parts in here that people need to,
Yes, ma'am.
all these different people need to participate in. I mean, you got the ships coming in, which is the ports, and then you got the water, which is the state. I
Yes,
just think that there should be I think that there should be a little more collaboration.
Yes, ma'am. So we did look at it from that regard and started having those discussions, but it was determined it's a public safety issue. And if something wasn't done, it could be catastrophic and cause harm to the public. So the county said, well, we'll come in and it's our wall, so we'll fix our wall while all the other negotiation or discussions are happening, because they couldn't sit and wait for it all to be worked out.
Did we say we were gonna fix this?
But,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
you have.
Yes, ma'am. This is
yeah.
this is a
We
change,
could have
well,
put a fence up.
Right,
sorry, this is a change order to a contract, so you did originally approve a contract.
right,
That it was an emergency.
Yes.
right, emergency situation. Now, also, tell them those meetings are every other week or every week, or how are we doing the meetings?
Yes, we were having weekly and then bi-weekly meetings with city, trade center, Weston folks. We've gone to
CAT,
monthly now, CAT,
State,
yes.
FEMA, GEMA,
Weston,
Weston.
yes.
yeah, it's, so
Stakeholders.
the collaboration from the day it fell, all right, there has been collaboration with all those different groups in the room, okay, but because this is an emergency situation, all right, we already passed, to do what we can to stop our wall from falling in, because if the wall fall in, the rest of it's gonna follow. And I'm gonna say publicly what I said in the governor's office and the lieutenant governor's office. I would hate for them to come in the convention center sitting in the middle of the river, all right? And that's possibly what can happen here, because the ship's gonna keep coming, the weather's gonna keep changing, and there's gonna be changes to what's going on now. In fact, they started bracing one time, and then they had to re-brace to help the brace that they put up there to keep this thing from falling. So, in short terms, and this is me and me alone, okay? This is a mess, and we're trying to find the best way to fix the mess, all right? And so then we can hold parties responsible after we stop the mess, because we can't have folks who visit us fall in or this thing cave in, and those folks are over there because they haven't stopped business at the convention center.
Well,
I understand. I understand your frustration now, Commissioner Kicklighter, because that's my frustration when I sit and talk with folks, and especially when they are given dimensions and instructions on what stuff's supposed to be, and then they go buy something that's too small and too weak to do the job, and then they want to insist putting it in there. So if you put it in there and then it fall in, what you gonna do? You gonna start it all over again? See, those are kind of things that we are fussing and arguing about. Okay.
Okay.
And when I say fussing, we're not unreasonable, but I don't think we ought to overlook the facts of what's going on. All right, let me go to Commissioner Stone. She was next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do concur with Mr. Kicklighter that this is just a horrible, we shouldn't have to do this. but I was over there. And I do appreciate, again, Commissioner Kicklighter's perspective on this, but I was over there. Y'all, this is a dangerous
It
situation.
is.
It made me nervous, so the liability of this thing, if nothing else, is right in front of us. There are people waiting to get the ferry, they sometimes don't know where to go, they're all around this, and these pictures do not show you exactly how bad this situation is and how dangerous it is. So I don't want the liability of someone getting hurt if in fact this is our property and we don't take care of it. That is my concern. I brought it up this morning in the pre-meeting, asked if the city had contributed in any way, shape, or form. I think it's very unfair that they're not doing it. I appreciate the efforts of the chairman and the county manager in lobbying our state and the federal government to try to get funds for this. But y'all, this, at the end of the day, this is a very dangerous situation over there. Please go over and look at it, and then it'll tell you much more than these pictures will.
And please don't go beyond the barriers. Stay on the safe sides of the barriers. Okay, let's go to Commissioner White, and I'll come back.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I understand and agree with a lot what Commissioner Kicklighter and Commissioner Stone has said, and I share some of the same questions that Commissioner Milton has. And my concern at this point, this is where the ferry goes and docks. And so I think about the citizens who actually benefit from using the ferry. I think about the CAT service, considering that the ferry is a portion of CAT service, and also the tourists who use this in visiting our town. And my fear is that this is like an infection. If we allow it to remain, it's just going to get worse. And so my personal belief is that we should be the responsible adults in the room and fix it because we know it needs to be fixed. And then from there, settle up with the various entities however we can. And perhaps I'm hopelessly optimistic in saying that we can settle up with them. But as our chairman and our manager feel that our relationship with the state is favorable enough to where they would give us some assistance, and understanding that this plays right into the operation and the amenities, if you will, associated with the Trade Center. I'd like to think that the state would be absolutely willing to be a part of this. I think we should go ahead, let's get it squared away so we don't have to prolong it, because otherwise we're going to end up in another contentious debate about who should get what share of what. Thank you.
All right, let's go back to Commissioner Kicklighter.
Thank you, Chairman. Nothing but respect for my co-workers here. Has the ferry stopped working? Are they not running it back and forth across the river? Did it stop after the?
It did temporarily, but they are back to operations.
Whew, so that means that they're now taking it somewhere else other than this particular spot?
Right, in a temporary solution. It's not.
I mean, this
something to be
apparently
done
was
long-term.
temporary too, and we just didn't know it when we spent the money for it. But legally, Mr. Attorney, what legally, if anything, would prevent the owners of either the Trade Center or, I guess, the city of Savannah, since they own the, I guess, the road bordering that is what, whoever owns the bordering part there, would anything prevent the owners from coming in and driving their own pylons down on their property lines that would stabilize the soil just in case the entire thing here just fell off tomorrow? The entire part the county owns.
Yeah, I don't know the engineering components of that.
Now, I'm not talking engineering, I'm talking
But
legally.
They're
I would have
complicated.
asked engineering with all due respect,
The-
Mr.
the
Attorney,
problem
but I
you
asked for a
have-
legal opinion.
The problem you have is that property is property of the county, and there's a term called lateral support.
Okay,
Lateral support of holding things up.
you're not answering my legal question.
Yeah, I am.
No, you're not. Legally, can someone drill pylons on their own property?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought the answer was. So if it's in that big of a danger of falling in tomorrow, then they can put the pylons down themselves. I mean, it's that simple. We can put a fence around it. People put fences around lakes to keep kids from going in. I mean, if somebody climbs a fence before the rightful owners or the people benefiting from it, it makes no sense. $6 million for the state's nothing. I mean, it's nothing for the state to do, other than us just saying we're tired of being taken advantage of. Or let's put it another way. The only way City of Savannah ever responds to anything is with leverage. Maybe we look to work with Savannah on this one, but maybe Savannah should work with us on not letting a chemical plant kill our unincorporated residents over on the west side. Maybe there's bargaining to do when you don't just throw everything and give things away right off the bat. It's politics, give and take. Guys, it's great being nice, but when the other kids playing in the yard aren't nice too, you lose. So sometimes you gotta be a little tougher. I mean, we can't let the state or the cities take advantage of us like this. Thank you, I'm done, that's it.
All right, let's go to Commissioner
And John, I'm sorry, I just wanted the legal answer, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you out, I'm sorry.
All right, let's go to Commissioner Lockett.
Mr. Chairman, I too, along with my colleagues, share the frustration coming out of the situation here, but public safety is what I'm concerned about. I agree we shouldn't have to do it, but because of public safety, I say we should move on and get it done with all vigor and make sure that this situation is going to be much better than the last situation as far as engineering is concerned. Thank you.
All right, let's go back to Commissioner Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, we're talking about heightening the bridge again. All of that, I mean, a lot of that seems to me to be state. So we're doing all of this to facilitate these ships, and we're moving every day, the earth moves. I mean, can we get some commitment from them that they're gonna put in half of this, or commitment from somebody before we decide that we're gonna pay all this?
Well, Commissioner, we feel the same way that the majority of the board feels. We don't feel that, we should even be involved in this, but it is the county's property. And the chairman has been working and lobbying to make sure that we get some state support. So we're lobbying now. I'm not sure that, when they're gonna step up to the plate and how much, but we are trying to get that, because you are right, there's a lot that goes on in the river. We kind of guessed that maybe the earthquake and the agitation of the ships and just a number of factors created this. And it had to be being undermined for a period of time. And we think that the little tremor from the earthquake and some other factors,
Those ships.
it just caved in. So, but the short answer is, yes, we are trying to solicit help from the state and the Trade Center to
So
fix it.
do we move forward on saying, yes, we're gonna give them the 46 before we get any commitment from anybody else?
Well, I think we've started the repairs. And, we do have events over at Trade Center. I think we're already in it now. I think we do go ahead and fix it, and just like a lot of other things, we're gonna have to lobby and argue with the state to see if we get reimbursement. Now, there are certain things that the state has requested from us, and we're kind of, in negotiations with them on that.
And that's good, but I agree with Commissioner Kicklighter too, that the city, we need to lobby them for something. We need to lobby them for something. Everything behind there, and do they know that everything behind there belongs to them? And if we just sit down and let them get a little, what you say, Dean, what you call it?
They've had multiple representatives in every meeting, all right? It's just not one person from the city that's been there. It's multiple people who have been there, okay?
So do they think that we're gonna fall in? Do they think we're gonna cave in? Do they think we gonna, I mean, I know that that's their feeling because we own the property. But if we vote today no, what does that do to?
Well, there's a potential liability that, and John could probably speak to this better than I can, but, you know, with that undermining, it could affect surrounding parcels, like the Western, and I know Trade Center's on piles and probably wouldn't do a whole lot to the Trade Center, but, you know, there's some potential liability there, and we need to fix what's ours. Now, I think this predates most of y'all, but, you know, we fixed the front portion, the section in front of the Trade Center about 6, 7 years ago. We had to do that. So there is a history of failures there, and that's why we're trying to get this fixed so we can potentially get out before anything else happens.
But they're building this the new hotel, all of that vibration to me just seems as though, and it's continuing on. So nothing has stopped to make this go away, stop damaging it. So all of those people that are doing everything they want to do, they ought to participate in payment.
Well, we are, as Cooler can,
Because it's gonna, it helps them to get the business that they want.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, now let's go back to Commissioner Whiteley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Cooler, can you go back to that page that showed the overall, that one, yes. So where is the temporary dock now for the Cat Ferry?
Over at the Westin. You see where the Westin is? Mm-hmm. It's over at the Westin.
All right, and so that's on the Weston's, no,
Property.
that's City of Savannah's property. Well, no, that's Weston/CSX property right there.
Right.
And so how long do we have that space for? And is CAT paying for that? Is the county paying for that temporary space?
The county is not paying for any CAT operations temporary.
Okay, all right. Now, when we built the slip, the failed slip, that was with SPLOST money? Yep, okay. And then the portion in the front of the actual trade center, that was the state of Georgia's property that we repaired on their behalf?
No,
Oh, no, that's right, because
the
we own
county
the
owns the
Riverwalk.
Riverwalk.
Got you.
And you have to understand that, you know, the county was a significant partner in building the Trade Center.
initially.
So we essentially developed all of that over there, and these agreements, they may be a hodgepodge of agreements, but they were put in place when the county was developing that. So that's kind of how we're in this situation now.
So, Ms. Cooler, if we were to just stabilize this section rather than rebuild it, would that stop it from falling in? If we just went into a massive stabilization piece, if you will? And then secondly, my question would be to Mr. Manager, would the Westin be cool with us leaving the ferry there, the dock?
I've been on in a part of the discussions initially, and apparently the dock where the Westin is not designed for those ferries. And I'd heard in one discussion that we were actually doing some damage over there, and it's not advisable that we prolong that situation.
Because
So,
they're damaging the boats and the dock at this point.
Gotcha. Well, again, I still think, y'all, we ought to just, let's be the big kids and let's fix it. I do understand and appreciate leverage, and I stand with you, Commissioner Kicklighter, as it relates to the electronic recycling plant and the potential dangers that it could pose to our community. But again, if we let this sit, y'all, you know, next thing, Weston and everybody else is suing us, and then we're gonna have to settle that case.
Chairman,
Wait a minute. Okay, all right. You through? Yes. All right, go back to Commissioner Kicklighter, and then
thank you,
come to Milton.
Mr. Chairman.
That's two now.
With all due respect, I do offer just the following. We're not doing any damage to the Weston's Riverwalk because we don't own the boats. We, Chatham County, who we are actually responsible for governing, for what we were elected to do, for our we people, we're not damaging a thing because we don't own a boat. We're not profiting from nothing on any side of this thing. So we are not damaging anything. That would be another government agency. All right, that's first and foremost. Pushing us into something for liability. I'll offer this. In Florida, 2 houses sit beside each other. One falls in a sinkhole. Are y'all telling me the person that their house fell in the sinkhole is then responsible for stabilizing everything because if his neighbor's house eventually falls in, the neighbor can sue the dude that his fell in? That ain't the way it works. The man that has his house still standing next door, if he don't want his to fall in the sinkhole, he stabilizes his own house. That's the way owning your own property works in private world. And that's the way it should be working here in the government, with government. Nobody should make you feel bad. This thing fell in with a earthquake or cracked back then, and then we tore it down. But back when? How long ago was this?
June of 22.
June of 22? Okay, so, and nothing else has really fallen in that we're aware of?
We've removed the load off.
Yeah, we removed a lot of it.
All of it.
And you
I
stabilized
just
it.
think, sir?
They stabilized, we stabilized it.
Yeah, so it's stable. Why are we responsible for anything at this point? I mean, we being the people of this county, contributed to develop that entire nice thing. And then other people took the profits.
I think it goes back to what Commissioner Whiteley says.
Well, it's stable.
We're the big boys in the room, or the grown people in the room.
Well, there's big boys in the room, and then there's government agencies that allow
Right.
others to take advantage of them. And that has been this county for entirely too long. That's why what Commissioner Farrell always speaks of in the budget, I believe, and back him wholeheartedly, our unincorporated areas get shafted constantly. And that's partially because we allow it. It's an easier thing than to bite that bullet politically and shift it over to M&O where everybody pays. But, you know, when we allow it, life sometimes is easier for us, but it's not necessarily the right thing to do. And being the big boy in the room, doing something just because Savannah don't want to paint their own house, or the state don't want to take care of their own house, it's wrong. It's not up to our taxpayers. It's up to the ones that are reaping the benefits. So with that, I'll call for the question. If there's a question on
Okay.
this, no? There was not even a vote on this, was it?
Right, no, we haven't gotten there yet. She's just, giving us an update. All right.
I have another question.
I'm afraid to move on to the next.
I'm sorry, I thought you were finished.
Nope. Nope.
So now we talk
Before
about
the
project
presentation
costs.
is over, yeah.
Oh, Lord, it gets worse.
Right, so now we
All
talk
right,
about project costs.
Listen, so that we stay in proper order. Let's get the last question now from Commissioner Middleton.
Okay,
Last
thank you.
time.
The question is, can we afford this? Can Chatham County afford this? And
That's
do
why it's
we
got
have-
it in the budget transfer.
But we have priorities in other areas that are emergency situations for those people that it affect. And, yeah, and we're gonna take from Paul to help Peter, and Paul is not happy. Peter,
That's not what you're doing. You're not taking from any place to put any place. You're going into CIP.
but we transferring funds.
You're transferring funds.
And
yeah.
where would these funds have been used if we didn't transfer?
They would stay in CIP. You can give a better, you can give a better.
CIP is where you fund county projects that are not related to SPOS or another revenue stream. So each year, if we have, at the end of the budget year, we try to transfer funds over there if we've had additional revenues during the year over and above the budget. So we do have enough funds in CIP to cover this, but it is a lot of money. And it will push back probably some of the other needs that we have.
Because I have some other
Right.
folk in other areas that want some of that CIP money
I'm
too.
sure you do. A lot of people want it.
I don't think there's one district that don't,
And
don't
that's
want
what-
some money out of that
And that's what the
CIP.
commissioner's saying, that we triage road repairs.
Right.
Why would we not triage the capital projects, especially when it comes to, I mean, something like this? We have things that we need to fix that the county actually
Need to fix.
needs to fix and we're responsible for and the county benefits from. This is one of those instances where there's other people that will take care of it needs to be fixed. But there's so many areas that nobody else is gonna do if we don't do it. And we can use this now that I see $11 million, not 6 million. Yeah, this now for sure needs to not be done.
I
All
said
right,
I was afraid
now
to
we can
move
go
on.
back to, let's finish the presentation.
So I said I was
So
afraid
we
to
can get the
move on.
order to get back in place.
So to date, we have spent approximately 600,000 on design work and 3.5 million on construction, and that is just to get it to the point it is today, which was that image you saw there at the end, which has got it stabilized. But we did remove infrastructure that belonged to the city and to the state, and we, with their permission and understanding that we would put it back, they allowed us to do that, to take the pressure off of our wall. What it will come before you next is a budget transfer to keep going, and then also a change order with the contractor. So the way we have done this, in order to secure the site and to keep moving, we've continued to design as they construct. We're at the point now where this change order today for 3.8 million will get those piles driven. It'll get everything, it'll get the deep foundation system in place. It will not finish the project. We will come back with another change order, which will be another phase, which will be the top of that and the finishings on top. So I just wanted to give you a heads up of that this, we know this is not the end. As I said, in order to keep it moving, if we don't approve a change order today, those piles don't get ordered. There's an 8-week lead time on those things. So that means the longer we push it out, the longer that takes to order, the longer it sits as a big hole, as it is now. Yes, so that's where we're headed.
All right, that's the end of the presentation?
That is it, if you have any
Okay.
questions.
All right, and let me say this now, go back to the last slide. All right, while we are looking at the up-to-date and the pending, we are allowing our state partners and our federal partners to go through the budgetary process so that we can get a number, because all of them have asked us. And that's why we said in pre-meeting that the estimate is somewhere between 11 and 15, okay? They have asked us for what our projections were, and we gave them those numbers. So hopefully before we get to the, after today, before we get to where we have to get to the 11 million plus, that their monies will be in place also at that particular point. But let me say this to you again now, it's still, even if they give us the money, it's still coming to the county, okay? Because we are the conduit for the state and the federal. So one day, we're gonna come in here and accept the money, all right? And then pay for all the stuff getting done, and then we'll start sending out invoices, telling them what we're gonna reimburse. But it is our hope and it is our prayer, and it is our position when we're in the room, and I just happen to be the chairman who's in the room, okay, that's talking about how we take care of this, okay? Because when it was first reported as an emergency, FEMA looked at it and said, no, it's not a FEMA project. But because we were able to sit down and talk with the senators about looking at the am I calling the right seismometers that went off on Elba Island? Elba Island is on the east side. The earthquake is on the west side, all right? It may not have touched anything in between, but whatever faults existed right here at this particular time, it showed that up, okay? And so hopefully, we are going to hear from the federal and the FEMA that they have given us whatever they have decided to come up with. So that's where we continue to stay and work, okay? But in the meantime, as Commissioner Lockett said, public safety and our liability is still a priority for all of us, okay? All right, now, let me go to Commissioner Farrell.
Did the failure coincide with the seismic activity?
The earthquake happened at about 4 to 5 a.m. and the failure, we saw the first crack was witnessed at about 8 a.m. Like I said, we don't believe it's the reason, but it's
Contributed.
suspicious that it happened the same day.
But it very likely could have been the
Could very
trigger.
likely was a trigger to,
Yep. It wasn't the gunpowder and the bullet, but it was probably the trigger
yes.
that set it off.
Right.
Okay. Second question, if there's an overage in SPOST, which there possibly could be, and we look for places to place it, would this project be eligible to backfill the CIP? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so that is a possible
Oh, wait a minute.
maybe or yes?
You mean, could we shift it to a SPOS project? Oh,
Yeah, I think this would happen pretty quickly, so, the timeline of when we reach the 420 or whatever, 420 million in SPOS would be a ways down the road.
I
Yeah.
understand the timeline is stretched.
Yeah, and
It's
we
just-
didn't have
It's
this.
just a hypothetical
Yeah, we didn't have
question.
this project in the current SPOS, so we would have to look at it with
Okay.
legal.
And the other thing I would say is because this was a out-of-the-blue catastrophe of large proportions, that we should give time for to work with our partners with the state, which the chairman has taken a lead on and is already working on that. But I think, to get heavy with anybody at this stage in the game is premature at best.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
All right, anyone else now?
My last thing is I hope we got some real good lobbyists and negotiators to get these participants in the game.
You're looking at him.
Yeah,
I said real good.
You're looking at him.
I will say that in our discussions with the new speaker, he was aware of the problem, because he's been down here
Yeah.
to the Trade Center. And so everyone that, that we've talked with, they're aware and they've expressed a desire to help.
They express a desire to help.
Yeah, we just have to go through the process,
That's nice.
all right? Yeah, they expressed the desire to help us with this, but we just have to go through the process of letting them, it's not like somebody can walk in and say, all right, write them a $4 million check or write them a $5 million. It's gotta go through a step process, and that process is in motion, okay? Just last Friday, we met with our legislative delegation because they need to do some things to get the state wheel rolling, all right? They have done that, and we just need to wait back and hear from them. And that's why the manager and I have been on those several trips that we've been on, no later than this past Monday and Tuesday when I was in Atlanta, all right?
So that infrastructure money can be applied to.
Yeah,
students?
see, and on the state level now, what we're looking at is they're looking at putting us under the Emergency Act, okay? So that means that we don't have to wait until the legislative session is over, because, legislative session won't be over until April, okay? So, hopefully, in the next day or so, or next week or so, we would have gotten that commitment, and we can honestly come back and say, you got 50 cents, or you got $10, or you got $1 million, or whatever. But, I don't think that you being heavy-handed or shutting the door right now is in our best interest, okay? And that's just my personal opinion, all right? And everybody's got one.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
It all sounds great. Working, I mean, and it is great to work with people, but we don't need to use up any favors
No,
with the state to
No.
fix something that's not even our problem.
no.
In
we're
other
not.
words, if the state wants to do something great for us, help us pay another bill that we actually are responsible for. Something that we need, help us build a bridge over something. Help us pave a road and a few more roads, potholes. Help us do some things we're responsible for. Why do we want to go, it shouldn't even be us asking the state to help fix the thing. It benefits Savannah on this. Savannah should be the one asking for the actual money there. It's that simple. I mean, it's just that simple.
Okay.
That they should be the ones responsible. And on this, if we can move to number 3, before we do on here, on 3, can we just remove 3B for a separate vote? Line 3, section B, on number 3?
Can we, cause now, that's coming up in.
Yeah, you'll have to read the whole
Yeah,
thing. but I
that's
just
coming
wanna-
up in 2 other places,
Yeah,
isn't it?
one other.
Well, you're transferring the money in,
Right.
item 3, and then on the purchasing agenda, you're awarding a contract.
Kinda,
Right, so can we remove 3B for a separate vote, is what I'm saying. Other words, I can make a motion to approve paragraph
Everything but
3
B.
with the exception of 3B.
And then go to B on its own.
Yeah, and then
Yes,
we
that can be
do
done.
a second vote on 3B after that.
That can be done.
Can I make a suggestion, Mr. Chairman? Because another thing we could do is still do the transfer, but hold off on the awarding of the contract.
We can do that too, if that's what you wanna do.
So if we,
But I'm telling you now, what you're gonna do is you're gonna throw see, and that's what she's trying to tell you. What you're gonna do is throw this whole thing into a bigger monkey wrench. All right?
Who's the contract?
You're right.
Yeah,
Just
because
to remind you,
if you transfer
Who's
the
getting
money,
this contract? I'm interested.
it's an existing contract. It's actually just a change order to a contract.
change order.
Okay, who,
TIC is the contractor.
who's the industrial company?
TIC.
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 TIC is the contractor.
That's a local contractor?
Yes, they're actually on Hutchinson Island. so
Is it a LLC or
they
a
are-
corporation or?
They're some type of corporation, I don't.
Sir?
It's long-standing
Yes.
business and has substantial assets.
Who's its president?
They're owned by a
I
bigger
don't know, not now.
They're
Don't
now a
know.
subsidiary of a,
Local office is run by, what's his name?
I don't know.
All right, what
have
are
to
we
get you
on,
that
item
information.
2 or item 3?
Now, we're getting ready to go to item 3.
But if we postpone this vote, you meet again in February, that's another month. And the lead time on the piles is 8 weeks. So then you're pushing it out, the repair, at 3
Yeah,
months.
you're stretching. You're really stretching, all right?
Yeah, that's amazing to me.
Well, can we vote on number 3?
All right, you gotta,
With or without B?
listen,
How-
are we
however you
ready?
wanna set
Now,
it
we
up.
ready to go to number 3? Okay, let's go. We ready to go to number 3 now. We're going to the order today. Request approval, I gotta read it first. Request approval of the following budget amendments and transfer. 1, in the multi-grant fund, increase revenues and expenditures, $380,252 for the Victims of Crime Act-based grant. B, $56,000 for the Victim Compensation Advocacy Grant. 2, in the general fund, transfer $29,380 from the clerk of Superior Court operating budget to the capital vehicle replacement fund. 3, in the capital improvement fund, A, increase revenues and expenditures $29,380 in the vehicle replacement project. B, transfer $4,600,000 from contingency to SLIP number 2 wall reconstruction project. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Properly motion and second, that we approve number 3. Are you ready for the question? Now there are questions. You need a question? Yes, sir.
Can we amend the motion to approve item 3 with the exception of sentence 3, section B? And we'll vote on that immediately following the approval of the overall thing.
Is there a second?
I'm
second.
agreeable to separate them and we'll vote on
I'll
them.
second that.
All right, it's been properly motioned and second that we approve all except Part B, which is the transfer of $4.6 million. All right, are you ready for the question? You're voting on the separation. Need everybody to vote. Waiting on 3. All right, good. All right, now, all is approved. Now, B, transfer $4,600,000 from contingency to SLIT number 2 wall reconstruction project. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny.
I'll second that motion.
Properly motion and second to deny. Are you ready for the question? All in favor? I mean, please cast your votes. I'm not sorry.
Oh, Mr. Chair.
Motion to deny.
To that.
The right, that's what you're voting on. You're voting on the
denying-
motion to deny.
We're denying B?
B, transferring the,
We're denying
For-
transferring $4,600,000 from contingency to the slip number 2 wall reconstruction
Right.
project.
Okay.
if you're for doing that, you vote yes. If you're not for that, you vote no. Put your red light on.
If you want to deny it, say yes. If you don't want to deny it,
You
say
don't
no.
want to fund it?
Wait a minute, I'm confused. I'm very confused, all of us.
To vote?
To vote yes means we're transferring the money.
No, it means we're denying the transfer.
I'm sorry then. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, that's it, all right?
So, vote no,
Majority.
does that mean we are funding it? Or do we need to have
No.
another motion? or
We're
what?
transferring.
You gotta have a motion now, you gotta have another motion now to transfer the money.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what,
Yeah, I guess,
Well,
That-
the
the
only
vote
thing,
is in.
well, when I
I guess so.
actually, when I agreed to separate them, I didn't agree to change the change it.
you're not changing it. Here's, because you separated, you
Okay.
took a vote
Okay.
because he wanted to deny it,
All
and
right.
that failed. So now you gotta make a motion to accept it.
All right, a motion
To
to
accept the
proceed with
recommendation.
3B, transfer $4,600,000 from contingency to slip 2 wall reconstruction project.
All right, is it, all right, properly motion and second. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please signify by voting.
Yeah, if you want to,
All right.
You want to be with the right side, you say no.
if you want to do it, say yes.
You voted?
You want to sleep good at night, it's no. No, I'm kidding.
Listen, you know, the only way we're gonna get out the message, fix it.
We got, we'll,
If you, yeah.
let's give it time, we'll fix it, we'll get the money.
Come on, Tanya.
You don't want to take some flack with
Vote
us?
time.
Come on.
All right,
Come on, share
all right, we through with that. Let's go. Come on, Chief Hadley. We're through with that. Let's go.
Not waving me on that one anyway.
Everyone all right?
You got $4 million, chief?
We okay.
I was gonna come up and say, hi, I'm Paul, but,
Keep it light, Chief, keep it light.
Go ahead, Chief. I just had to get some stuff going.
you're fine, sir.
All right.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm here to give my bi-monthly report. Actually, this will be a end of 2022 report on crime and a couple other things that I wanted to include in this briefing. First of all, this is a snapshot of our overall crime comparison between 2021 and 2022. Total violent crime decreased by 16.3% in 2023. That's a very welcomed decrease for residents of unincorporated Chatham County. And I always look at, we had 46 less incidents, that's 46 less victims, that's 46 less people that were affected by some type of violent crime, whether it be homicide all the way to aggravated assault. So that's always a nice thing to see. As we've talked before, our largest increase, in which really was the account for a slight uptick in our overall crime, was shoplifting. We had 179 more incidents of shoplifting in 2023 as opposed to 2021. And moving on, what you can see is here's our top shoplifting locations for 2022. The most representative example is the Walmart at Montgomery Crossroad, where we had 125 more incidents in 2022 as opposed to 2021. Why that is, we could probably have a little bit of a guessing game, but what I do know is Walmart utilized this location as a training ground for their loss prevention staff. So if they normally would have one or two loss prevention staff looking for shoplifters, they could have had 5 or 6 at one time, which would then account for more arrests, more incidents. So, overall, I'm very satisfied with our crime experience in unincorporated Chatham County, specifically around violent crime. Moving on, this just is the number of incidents throughout the year in all the beats across the east side and west side of Chatham County. And you can see where that represents that. Moving on, what I wanted to do is give our year-to-date stats on use of force. I did this last year in a effort of transparency, so you can see what our experience is, our officers' experience is in terms of use of force. I also want to thank Sergeant Sladen, the football player back here. He's from the Office of Professional Standards. He's our sergeant, and he provided these stats, and I just wanted to recognize him and thank him for putting this together for me today. We had 144 incidents of use of force in 2022. That could be as simple as displaying a taser and then someone complies, but that's a use of force. So we document that through our use of force reporting system, all the way to open hand techniques or having to take somebody down. We did not have any officer-involved shootings in 2022, thankfully. But over here on the right, you can see a firearm drawn, 32, taser deployed, 11, taser displayed, 25, hands-on, 91. And a firearm drawn could be you're on a traffic stop, someone's fidgety, they reach underneath their seat, or they didn't comply. You may draw your weapon, then they comply, you reholster your weapon. That would indicate something of that nature in terms of firearms drawn. So percents of calls for service versus citizen contact. So again, we had 144 uses of force. We had 53,106 citizen contacts with no force. So 0.3% of our interactions, contacts with our citizenry results in a use of force. A very, 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 very low percentage, not even 1%. Our percentage of arrests in terms of use of force is 5.6. So of all the arrests that we made, we had 981 arrests. Only 55 of those resulted in a use of force, or 5.6%. I actually asked Sergeant Sladen to break it down into the demographics of those uses of force. So he had 144. 53% of those incidents involved a Caucasian, 7% Hispanic, and 39% African American. And I could get into female and male if you wanted those statistics as well. So pretty low on the female side.
What were those stats again, Chief?
53% Caucasian, 39% African American, and 7% Hispanic.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Moving on, wanted to give a kind of our current staffing experience. During 2022, we had 24 resignations. We hired 19 new officers, which consisted of 5 certified and 14 new recruits. Of those, 1 withdrew from the academy and 1 did not pass the academy. There are currently 37 vacancies. which amounts to a vacancy rate of about 23%. We've kind of held that number for well over a year. As I like to say, they've trickled in and they've trickled out. We have 3 new recruits starting the Police Academy January 3rd, and we have 5 certified officers that will be hired on February 6th. In 2021, we had 30 officers leave the department, so in those 2 years, we've had 54 folks leave Chatham County Police Department for a variety of reasons, other agencies mostly. Some have left the profession, and things of that nature. And this, over to the right, the pie graph, we have.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
When the police department started, what was the authorized number of positions?
I believe we were at about 137. So in other budget years, the
So-
Board of Commissioners has approved officers for a traffic unit, officers for, which would include supervisors, officers for a street enforcement team. We have those positions, but we have not been we have not been able to populate those functions or those specialty units because we don't have the staffing to do so.
Right, and that's the point I was making, that, you know, we're pretty close to where we
Yes.
started the police department, and as we've attempted to grow it and make it better and more effective, you know, we just haven't filled those positions. But it's, you know, when you look at the percentage of vacancies, it looks pretty high. But if you just go back to the beginning and say, well, if the police force just stayed the same the whole time, it would be a pretty small percentage. But we just haven't been able to grow at that next step.
Yes.
Just a way to
Okay.
look at it.
Yeah,
so.
sure.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So I wanted to kind of give a lot gets talked about, pay. Mr. Kegler has been very receptive in our initial conversations around where, at least where I'd like to see us go as we go to the future. We're in a kind of an arms race, so to speak. We're all fishing from the same pond, right? And we all got some type of bait, so to speak, around pay and benefits and things of that nature. But this reflects currently the starting pay of some of the agencies here in Chatham County. As you can see, we are at $48,594. Savannah's at 50, a little over 50. Garden City's 48.9, and so forth and so on. So we're probably around, 4th or 5th in that comparison. So, I'm going to take a little liberty here, if I may, and I hope Michael doesn't get too upset with me. But I'm gonna, because I feel that's what I have to do to advocate for public safety here in Chatham County. I think one of our core responsibilities in government is core services. Part of core services is public safety, police, fire, EMS, public works. All those functions, core functions of government, deserve, in my opinion, our highest attention and our highest priority. Those are the services that most affect our citizens. Our citizens want to know when they call 911, they answer, we get dispatched, and we show up. They want their toilets to flush when they press the button. They want their trash picked up. They want their streets safe, void of potholes. That's, I think, one of our primary responsibilities of government. Specifically with law enforcement, so we used the football analogy earlier, right? And we had a nice laugh. We can have a championship, 2-time national championship football team in the state of Georgia. We're 45th in pay in law enforcement in this country. I think we can do better. I think we, as Chatham County, can do something differential, not incremental, because what we've been doing is here, Savannah does this, Port Wentworth does this, Chatham County does this. Certainly understand. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that better? All right. I'm usually not tall, so I usually don't have to put it up. I just have to put it down. And I don't say that to be dramatic or anything like that, but I think we have an opportunity here. You guys have been tremendously supportive of the police department. The management has been tremendously supportive of the police department. The community has been tremendously supportive of the police department. What type of value are we going to place on public safety but the officers do every single day in this community. Not everyone is asked to do what they do. Everyone does a great job in the county. They have tough jobs and they work hard. But, if I may, no one's asked to search a landfill for dead bodies. Only if you are asked to administer Narcan to people that are overdosing on fentanyl or something else, or pick up dead bodies, or work night shift, change your shift every 6 weeks, days and nights, weekends, holidays, things of that nature. They're not. So how do we reflect our appreciation for those that raise their hand and say, I'll do that type of work? Because the water cooler talk and the stark reality of it is these officers know all these figures. They know what everyone else is doing across the county or even across the state. And then we get asked the question, why not us? Why not we? How come we're not this? And I'm not one to go, well, they won't do this or they won't do that, because everyone has been very supportive. But I'm just standing here as your police chief and asking, as we move forward, can we have a healthy and hearty conversation about how we value our police officers, sheriff's office included, 911 dispatchers included. I think we have the ability to make a statement, and I'm just asking for that as your police chief. Moving forward, this is just some of other comparisons on educational incentive and hiring incentives and things of that nature. And you can kind of, chew on that if you like. So, moving on from that. So, we had an opportunity here in Chatham County, if some of you saw the cattle car experience, kind of a mobile museum that brought a cattle car from the Holocaust. This is particularly interesting to me because for as long as I've been a police chief, all of our new hires where I was, we don't have necessarily that opportunity here other than when this came to town, is we would take, our new hires to the Holocaust Museum in Detroit, Michigan. I know you have some experience in Detroit, Commissioner Milton. Or if anyone's ever been to a Holocaust museum, it is moving. It is absolutely moving. And if anybody's ever got the opportunity to sit before a Holocaust survivor and listen to their stories and their memory and how that affected them as an individual about how they were oppressed. The reason we have our officers attend things like this is to understand that their role as a police officer, the enormous power that they have and the effect that they can have on a single individual in their life in a bad way if they use the powers bestowed upon them in a negative way. We wanted to make sure that they understood how important their role is in society and how much power they actually have, and to appreciate that what they do matters and how they behave matters and how they treat people matters. One thing, when I had the opportunity on the 70th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz to attend a talk by a lady who was there. She was 77 years old at the time she gave this speech. She was 7 years old when it got liberated. And she remembers the smells, the details, and what struck me even more was she remembered the guards' boots, the sound when they hit the planks of the barracks, their uniforms, the leather strap that went across their chest. And as I'm sitting there and listening to her, and you could see how much that moved her, is think of the power of this uniform, right? And if you have such a negative experience with someone with enormous power wearing this uniform, a gun, a badge, you got stars up here, you got all this bling, so to speak, how much of an impression that would leave on an individual, particularly a young individual. So this is the reason why we make our officers attend things like this, so they can understand their enormous role that they play in society, so they can have some social context as they go out and do their work every day.
I have a question.
Yes.
I wanted to know what the police force was doing to advertise this type of education to the youth.
Well, we didn't, this wasn't our program, but I think that this is something that